I think the very first VTubers were furries with the suits, but they were IRL and made no money off of it. That's not a VTuber. That's not a VTuber with a suit. That's a person in a suit and a furry. A VTuber is virtual. Virtual. So using some sort of 2- or 3-dimensional model. It's in the name. Yeah. Now there's similarities in that you're adopting a persona. Yes, absolutely. I think there are a lot of similarities, but oh, you know, I asked someone this a bit ago. I was talking to someone. They were talking about a lot of things. They were yapping, rapid fire, talking about themselves. And someone I had just met, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm a furry," because someone joked about it or something. And they were like, "No, I'm not, haha." And they just turned and they were like, "I actually am, though." Like, just casually. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Fine by me." And then at some point, they also talked about they're very autistic. And I was like, "Can I ask a question?" It was one of those, you ever have those questions that you're, like, afraid to ask? But, like, you mean it nicely. You're just questioning. I asked this person because they were very open about, like, talking about everything. I said, "Let me ask you a question." They're like, "Yeah." And I was like, why are so many people that I know who are autistic also furries? Why are so many of my autistic friends either mildly into it or like people that I meet, you know, I was like, what is the connection? Not like in an accusatory way or anything. I'm just like, there is a correlation. What is that? What is that doing for you? Like, question, you know? I'm just curious. And they explained it to me in a way that made so much sense. And I was like, okay, now I get it. They were like, look, doing anything social has my brain screaming. They put it very simply. Like if I'm looking at a person and I'm talking to a person and I'm aware I'm talking to a person, I'm looking in their eyes, I'm seeing their human face, my brain is screaming. It's overwhelming for me. I'm masking. I'm trying very hard to get through it. It is a real, it's like solving a math problem as I'm talking to someone. It's very, you know, overwhelming. And they said, but for some reason, they were like, and a lot of my friends who are also autistic and furries all say the same thing. They were like corroborating for me. They were like, for some reason, when someone's in a fursuit or they're using a virtual persona or something, but specifically in the furry kind of way, they were like, I look at them and they're an animal. And even though I know there's a person in there and I'm treating them as a person, I'm looking at an animal. And something about that removes a lot of the anxiety and genuinely makes it a lot easier to communicate. And I was like, huh. I just didn't know. I was just like, I really have noticed this, and I like always want to ask, but I didn't want to ask someone who would think I'm like accusing them of something. I just wanted to know, you know. But they were saying that it actually like removes a lot of the anxiety in trying to identify what the person is feeling when you're just looking at them. And I was like, okay, interesting. They said they listen to a lot of audio only podcasts as well for that reason. And even in the audio can make it a little difficult, but having the audio and just not looking at that person's face helps them a ton. And I was like, okay, interesting. You had explained to you that a lot of it is about the exaggerated facial expressions in that anthro style that make it obvious what they are feeling. That's another thing. They were talking about how a lot of it is very based in, you make a persona, you have them drawn, and when they're drawn, yes, it's like the really exaggerated facial expressions and everything. And they said that really, it's clear and straightforward. And then I asked them a follow-up question. I was like, so why is it always Sonic? I was straight up because the background on their phone had Sonic. And I was like, why is it always Sonic? Specifically, why not another thing specifically? And that was part of their answer. They were like, it's a lot of things. They were like, honestly, they were like, it's because he's so simple. He's blue and he goes fast and he has red shoes. And his eyes are huge and his facial expressions are super clear and it's simple. And I was like, really? Like, it's that soothing to the brain? Like, it's that, you know? And they were like, yeah, for them, they were like, yeah, for me, it's like that. And I was like, huh. Interesting. Like, I guess it simplifies everything. So it's so easy to understand. You don't have to do guesswork for what he's about, you know? I was like, okay. They were like, yeah, Sonic is good. He is blue. He goes fast. And then Shadow is an anti-hero. He's cool. He's red and black. And I was like, you know what? I get it. I was like, this makes so much sense to me now. This one person like clarified so much. I was like, wow, okay. I get it. You said you're on the spectrum and you pretty much only watch VTubers because even just watching IRL people stream makes you uncomfortable. Can't explain it. Yeah, I think it's maybe my guess. This is my best guess, is that your brain is trying to sit there and identify what they're feeling, what they're saying, all the other things outside of just the audio you're hearing that kind of go into it. But then because your brain has issues with trying to handle that and it goes quicker to just being overwhelmed instead of just trying to parse through it, that just builds anxiety for you, right? That's my best guess. That is what it is, right? And it's not you, right? Like it is part of you, but it's not you trying to do that. It's just your brain doing that. So you're just trying to enjoy a stream and then your brain's just like, you know? I can fully understand that. Makes a lot of sense to me. For me, it wasn't like I get that because I do have a lot of friends that are varying levels and types of autistic, and it makes sense to me that the brain is overwhelmed by certain things, especially socially, you know, whatever. Facial expressions, I get that. But for me, it was like, why specifically furries, you know? It's one of those things where I was just so curious, but when this one person explained it to me, I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Ain't that just parasocial and dissociation? No, not at all. Not at all. Nope. Parasocial is like an entirely different term. That's a one-way relationship thing. This is just someone trying to look at somebody and understand what they're saying, what they're thinking, what they're feeling while they're speaking. Which is what literally everyone does. But a neurodivergent brain might have more trouble, depending on how your brain works, might have more trouble doing that. So, you know, it can make something that's supposed to be entertaining a bit more stressful. That's all. That's all.